Quick question. Does it feel like the job is getting harder, even when you're doing everything right? Labor's tight, prices move every week, and timelines keep slipping. That's not you. That's the industry shifting underneath our feet. In this video, I'm going to break down why that's happening, why it's accelerating, and why AI is suddenly moving from a nice to have to part of the toolkit for anyone who wants to stay competitive. The daily reality for leaders in the construction industry has become a relentless cycle of managing crisis. A typical day can involve navigating the fallout from a short-staffed critical crew, absorbing the impact of a 15% jump in key materials costs, or explaining to a client why a project timeline is slipping for the third time. This state of constant reaction is no longer an anomaly, it has become the normalized cost of doing business. The foundational blueprint that the industry has relied on for the past 50 years appears to be fundamentally broken, leading to predictable and recurring challenges. However, an alternative blueprint is emerging, one that is not just available, but is becoming essential for survival and a competitive advantage. This video will demonstrate why artificial intelligence is the most powerful tool that can be added to the modern construction leader's tool belt today. The discussion is not a futuristic concept, but about an urgent and necessary response to the profound challenges facing the industry. The objective is to shift the prevailing mindset from viewing AI as an optional technology for the future to understanding it as an indispensable strategy for the present. By the end of this video, it'll be clear that the critical decision is no longer if a construction business will adopt AI, but how fast. The frustrations experienced on an individual job site are not isolated incidents, but are symptoms of systemic, industry-wide crisis. Validating these lived experiences with hard data reveals the depth of the issues that make the current operational model unsustainable. The construction industry is suffering from decades of remarkably poor productivity relative to other sectors. While industries such as retail and manufacturing have transformed themselves through aggressive automation and adoption of lean principles, much of the construction sector has evolved at a glacial pace. The disaster of this stagnation is stark. Over the past 2 decades, global labor productivity growth in construction has averaged only 1% per year. This figure is alarmingly low when contrasted with the 2.8% growth for the total world economy and a 3.6% growth in manufacturing during the same period. In advanced economies, like the United States, the situation is even more pronounced, with productivity in construction remaining flat, while sectors like agriculture and manufacturing have increased productivity 10 to 15 times since the 1950s. This productivity gap represents a massive opportunity cost. Research from the McKinsey Global Institute found that if construction productivity were to catch up with that of the total economy, the sector's value added would increase by an estimated $1.6 trillion annually. The concept of the productivity gap manifests in 3 concrete headwinds that batter every project: a people problem, a price problem, and a performance problem. The industry's chronic inefficiency acts as an anchor, magnifying the impact of these forces and making it nearly impossible to move forward. Quick breather. This video is sponsored by my agency, Altaro. We help construction businesses adopt AI in a practical way, from finding the best use cases specifically for them to building the workflows and tools that actually make it stick. I've spent over 10 years on site as a project manager, so the solutions we build are made for the real world and not theory. If you want help specifically, there's a link in the description to book a call with myself. I'd love to have a chat. Now, let's get back to the video. So 1, the people problem. The construction industry is in the midst of a severe and persistent labour crisis. According to the 2025 workforce survey from the Associated General Contractors of America, the AGC, 88% of firms report having open positions for craft workers. Compounding the issue, 83% of these firms stated that the positions are as hard or harder to fill than the year prior. This is not a temporary cyclical shortage, but a condition threatening the industry's capacity to deliver. This hiring challenge has direct and damaging consequences for project execution. Nearly half of all firms, 45%, report experiencing project delays specifically because of workforce shortages, either within their own crews or those of their subcontractors. The crisis runs deeper than a simple lack of applicants. It is a skill chasm. The majority of firms report that the available candidates are not qualified to work in the industry, lacking the essential skills or certifications required for the job. This qualification gap means that even when positions are filled, the risk of errors, rework, and safety incidences is increasing, feeding into the industry's other systemic problems. Number 2, the price problem. Simultaneously, construction firms are battling intense margin pressure from volatile and rising material costs. An analysis by the Associated Builders and Contractors of the US Bureau of Labor Statistics Producer Price Index shows that as of mid-2025, non-residential construction input prices were up 2.6% year over year. This headline number masks extreme volatility in specific categories. For example, prices for copper and wire surged 12.2% over the past year. And 3, the performance problem. The culmination of these pressures is an epidemic of cost and schedule overruns that has become the industry norm, rather than the exception. The statistics are staggering. Large-scale projects typically take 20% longer than scheduled and are up to 80% over budget. A primary cause of this poor performance is inefficiency rooted in outdated processes. Research indicates that 35% of construction professionals' time, equivalent to over 14 hours per week, is spent on non-productive, non-optimal activities. And these include fixing mistakes, searching for project data, and managing conflict resolution, all of which contribute directly to the budget and schedule failures. And these 3 headwinds are not independent issues, but are locked in a self-reinforcing negative feedback loop. The chronic labour shortage leads to less experienced crews on site, which in turn increases the likelihood of errors and rework. This rework consumes expensive materials and extends project timelines, making the budget more vulnerable to volatile price increases. The resulting cost overruns squeeze margins, leaving less capital for investment in the training and technology that could address the root causes. This, in turn, makes the firm less competitive and less attractive to top talent, further exacerbating the labour shortage and adding to the vicious cycle. The $1.6 trillion productivity gap is not an abstract economic figure. It is a direct measure of capital being incinerated daily through the cycle of inefficiency. The industry's internal foundational cracks make it uniquely vulnerable to a set of powerful external economic forces that are converging to create a perfect storm. These economic trade winds will amplify existing pressures and make the status quo not just inefficient, but completely untenable. A Bain report, Labour 2030, provides a stark forecast stating the collision of these forces could trigger an economic disruption far greater than that we have experienced over the last 60 years. That is not a hyperbole, but a sober assessment of the 3 massive shifts: demographics, automation, and inequality. First, demographics, the end of plentiful labour. It's a profound demographic shift that signals the end of the era of plentiful labour. In advanced economies, populations are ageing rapidly, and the labour crisis felt within the construction is merely the leading edge of a much larger economic-wide demographic drought. The second is automation. It's the $8 trillion tidal wave. With labour growth grinding to a halt, the only path to sustained economic expansion is through a massive leap in productivity. This reality has driven an unprecedented wave of investment into automation. The same Bain analysis projects that US companies could invest an incremental $8 trillion in automation technologies by 2030 to achieve the necessary productivity gains. And the third is inequality. The market is likely to split into 2 distinct segments: a high-end tier demanding premium, hyper-efficient, and technologically sophisticated projects, and a value-oriented tier where minimizing cost is the absolute priority. The comfortable middle ground of the market will erode. The collision of these forces creates an inescapable logic. The demographic drought is a forcing function that makes the $8 trillion investment in automation a certainty, and companies must automate because there is no other path to growth. Construction's historical failure to improve productivity makes it the most exposed to all major industries to the shock. While more efficient sectors like manufacturing have a buffer to absorb rising labour costs, construction, with its low productivity and high reliance on manual labour, has none. The industry's past inability to innovate is a debt that is about to become due. The AI revolution in construction is not a future forecast, it is a present-day reality. The window for a wait-and-see approach has closed. Market data on investment adoption and growth clearly indicates that the tipping point has been reached, and inaction now constitutes a significant competitive disadvantage. So let's follow the money. The venture capitalists who make their living by betting on the future are placing massive wagers on AI in construction. In 2024, the total investment in construction technology reached $3.1 billion. Of that, the enhanced productivity category, which is dominated by AI-driven solutions, raised approximately $1.5 billion of that. This trend is accelerating. A 2025 Contech Investor Survey revealed that the first time AI has emerged as the number one technology area for increased investment. The smartest money in the world has analyzed the industry's productivity crisis and labor shortages and concluded that AI is the inevitable solution. The industry is rapidly moving beyond the early adopter phase and into the early majority. And this is the critical juncture where technology transitions from a niche competitive advantage to a mainstream necessity. The AI and construction market is no longer experimental. The global market was valued at approximately $3.93 billion in 2024, and it's predicted to explode to over $22.68 billion by 2032. So the evidence presents an inescapable conclusion. The construction industry's foundation is cracked, with a stagnant productivity, a shrinking workforce, and projects that are chronically late and over budget. A perfect storm of external and economic forces is gathering, set to punish inefficiency with unprecedented severity. In response, the market has already made its decision. The money, the momentum, a growing number of competitors are all moving decisively towards AI. At this critical juncture, the choice for industry leaders is stark. Sticking with legacy methods, relying on paper, manual processes, and instinct alone, is akin to being a dinosaur. It may be a large, powerful entity, perfectly adapted to the world that is rapidly disappearing, but is unable to see the asteroid approaching. Adopting AI, by contrast, is like launching a drone over the entire operation. It provides a complete real-time, data-driven view of the landscape. It allows leaders to spot safety hazards before they cause an accident, measure progress against the plan with pinpoint accuracy, and predict a supply chain delay before it cripples a job site. It enables a shift from reactive posture of fighting fires to proactive one of anticipating and preventing them. The choice is between the old broken blueprint and the new intelligent one. The question is no longer why AI, but why wait another day to begin? The purpose of the AI Construction Academy is to provide the critical how that must follow this urgent why. The content is designed to guide leaders from mindset to mastery, providing the practical knowledge of platforms, site applications, and workflows needed to build a new foundation for a more productive, profitable, and resilient future. And if you want specific help for your business, book a call with me using the link in the description. Thanks for watching.